ourselves a good old Western here. We went out and saw the Sisters Brothers. That's right, brothers whose last name is Sisters. That's the Sisters Brothers, just so you understand.
It's kind of confusing.
We didn't want to see Night School.
Definitely.
Because we saw the trailer, and they were pretty unfunny. I don't know, some of the later trailers got pretty funny, but I don't know. I just heard it was bad. So we went out and saw the Sisters Brothers, which is another one of these sort of very limited release, but it also, just like Mandy, is available apparently for streaming right now. So if you want to just watch this at home, you can.
I don't know if it's all of them, but I know for sure it's on Vudu.
Vudu. So you can rent it there. And I was in the mood for a Western because coming up here soon, we got Red Dead Redemption 2 in the video game world. So, and plus I love Westerns already. So this one, you want to describe the plot line?
Oh, yeah. The two brothers, they work for kind of a bad guy. They're
the Commodore.
They're the muscle of the
Not the
West.
band.
And they go around and they hunt people down who have wronged the Commodore.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like interesting brotherly antics that happen.
And these were played by John C. Reilly and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the chemistry between these two, fantastic. Though I think the film kind of leans a little bit more on Riley's performance, and he does a damn good job. Really great actor. You know, I believe there's an unspoken love sort of between these two brothers, and it's really engaging. The film opens up on a nice gunfight scene, filmed in a way I didn't really see. It kind of keeps you a little cold and distant from the gunfight. The night is pierced by a bunch of gunfire, and you know, I thought certain segments of the film were filmed really, really nicely.
There was some awkwardness. I think there was some. I liked a lot of the shots, but they definitely tried some new things. There was a lot of like intense close-ups on the face, and so it was kind of filmed in a peculiar way.
Yeah, I think it was trying to buck some of the old Western trends. This is definitely not your traditional Western.
By far, no.
The soundtrack is a little kind of awkward, you know, but effective for what this is here. And we have a subplot by two characters. Joe, you want to take that subplot?
So here we have another guest star, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Ah, yeah. He's a good actor.
Yeah, like I didn't know all these people were actually going to be in this movie. I didn't know anything about this. The casting was pretty good on my part.
Yeah, and he met up with a scientist guy who was doing like some gold rush.
Yeah, so he also was like a mercenary. He was sent out to go track down the guy with the formula and bring back that guy. And the Commodore wanted basically the formula to unveil the gold, which was pretty cool. But Jake Gyllenhaal had a change of heart, and these two guys actually. Oh shit!
Oh, did we spoil it? Fuck. All right, well then let's go back a little bit and go ahead.
So this character, Jake Gyllenhaal, he's also a mercenary. He's sent out to go get this guy with the formula, and he meets up and kind of waits for the Sisters Brothers
to show
up and collect his payment.
Because these Sister Brothers, they're basically assassins. They don't care whether you're, you know, good, innocent, bad. It doesn't really matter to them. And we get a kind of a surprisingly endearing storyline, or an interesting storyline between these two men, talking about, you know, what exactly he's going to do with this formula, what it's going to bring him. And he's maybe trying to convince the scout a little bit not to, you know, take the obvious approach. And you've got these two parallel storylines that are eventually going to collide. You've got the sort of hijinks and, you know, killing of, you know, the Sisters Brothers. And then you have, you know, this scientist and scouter storyline going on. And eventually these things collide. And I think it's kind of like a chase movie in that regard. And it was long, you know.
It's about 2 hours.
Yeah, and the pacing sometimes feels a little meandering. maybe a little kind of confused a little bit on its tone as it tries to do some experimental things in Westerns. We get some kind of black comedy. We get some sort of dream sequence kind of shots that, I don't know, almost don't kind of really fit with the rest of the
Like I said,
film.
there was weird. There were some scenes in there that were like really great that fit the Western theme. And then there was a scene that didn't make sense at all. And he didn't like repeat the same kind of theme throughout the movie. He just tried something once and like throw it in.
Yeah.
Like that's in the film now.
Eventually, these two plot lines crash, and there's satisfying gunfights. Obviously, the sister brothers, they're very good at their job. And ultimately, I would say that this is an engaging Western. I don't know if I can recommend it to everybody because it is kind of a...
No, I don't think they...
Yeah.
Like, to me, it was very story-driven. Like, the chemistry was great, and you feel that, like, transitioning throughout the way. And I really enjoyed that part, but it's not one of these shoot-'em-up kind of things.
Right.
It's not a typical Western.
Right.
You have to be, not only do you have to like this kind of movie, you have to be in the mood for it. Like, this is not a movie that you want to, like, you want to rush to go see because you have a bunch of stuff to do in the day. Like, this is, you want to sit back and kind of enjoy. This movie, like, goes at, like, a mosey. Right? Like, there's
moseying on.
Yeah, it's real
But
slow.
it's all really engaging.
I liked it. I liked it every step of the way, but I knew what I was getting into, and I liked that kind of movie.
Yeah.
And it would be hard for me to go and say, everyone should go see this movie, because a lot of people are going to hate it.
Right. If you like Westerns, if you're preparing yourself for Red Dead, because it actually has a lot of similarities with Red Dead in the sense that this is later on in sort of late Western period. Technology starting to come about. They do some jokes with toothbrushes. They do some jokes with San Francisco and all the fanciness that's in San Francisco, and sort of the grim life of being an assassin, the eventuality, the potential danger it is in just going around and killing people, because when you kill somebody, like they say in the movie, that's not the end of it. You know, there are brothers, there are fathers that, people come after you. And so that is dealt with in the movie. And I thought it was dealt pretty well. I didn't expect the ending. The ending, I think the film, here's 3/4 of this film was fantastic to me, okay? I've seen much worse Westerns because I love Westerns. I watch a bunch of them on Netflix that are terrible. This one, cinematography great, direction great, acting great, storyline great. But I do think in that last fourth, it kind of falls apart because you have the characters doing stupid things.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? That it almost feels forced in order to create some kind of conflict or drama here that's shocking. Yes, it's abrupt. Yes, life in the West is not a forgiving thing. This kind of reminds me of Hostels. Hostiles.
That's exactly right.
This isn't as bleak though. Like,
No,
Hostels
no,
was rough.
Real
like,
rough. I can recommend this one over Hostels in the sense of, Joe, is gonna be so morose that I'm gonna be kind of, in depression after watching it? No, this one is actually, better than that. So in that sense. But yeah, so they did some stupid things at the end, and I'm like, I'm not really sure I buy these smart characters. At least a few smart characters would do, some things like that. So, and I have to hold off for a quick spoiler section. But overall, I felt the film was very satisfying. If you want a Western, you're gearing up for Red Dead 2, and you've blown through a lot of the Westerns that are on Netflix, I would recommend, Silverado. You can go and watch that that one's probably a more mainstream, satisfying kind of Western, if you haven't seen that one. But once you go through a lot of the Westerns that people have already seen, Tombstone and things like that, and you're looking for...
Devil Horse.
Yeah, we saw this crazy ass thing in the previews at Alamo. We want to look it up. We don't know what it's about, but it's some 1930s serial. Anyways, so this one is going to be one of those for fans of Westerns who want something different. And the characters ultimately pull you in. The story pulls you in. And, I'm not mad that we went to go see it in the theaters. No. But I would recommend for you guys, if you go and see it, don't bother with the theaters. You could stay at home and watch it here and relax, and kind of take in the Western imagery and get prepared to duel. because I'm going to kick your ass in Red Dead Online. Anyway, all right, guys, so let's go with the final verdict. Let's go Joe first.
All right. The casting was, when I first saw the casting, Joaquin Phoenix, John C. Reilly, I was like, what the hell? It's pretty weird.
Yeah, you look at John C. Reilly and you're like, do I buy him in a not a funny role?
No, but he pulled it off.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this. And Jake Gyllenhaal was great as well. The story was great, but I think, to me, this was too realistic. Like, they filmed every scene and, like, the whole hardship and everything. It was just too much.
Yeah.
I felt like, all right, we need to start winding down and like wrapping up the movie a little bit.
It was a little long.
It just seemed kind of...
I did kind of hear Joe, like, sighing a little bit, like, kind of rustling in his chair towards the end. And I'm like, man, they could have knocked off like 20 minutes.
It's a little too long for me, though. So I'm going to give this a 6.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair. I also felt that there was... This is kind of shot, it's like 2-3 weeks of period of time, and a lot of really bad things happen to these guys. Not just for being an assassin, just for traveling. Like, there's animal attacks, a couple of them. I mean, there's all these like hardships that show up, and it's kind of relentless in the sense that it's like, I almost don't buy that this much bad stuff happened. I mean,
that's Hostels you're describing.
Well, like we'll talk about it first. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens to these guys, and after the final one happens, it's like, I'm done. Like, stop it. There was also some conveniences in the writing where there's like, we need a way to wrap this up. Oh, I know. And you mentioned this before. It's like, let's kind of have characters act out of character, and then let's wrap it up real nicely so that so we have this like really nice, because it ends. It ends kind of nicely.
God damn it, Alex!
But
don't say that. Ready and go.
So there was some conveniences in the writing.
It was based on a 2011 book, I think.
Yeah, but I imagine when you're reading the book, they had more time to flesh out. Where you're like, oh, okay, I buy these characters who do these things.
I think there's an epilogue in the book, and they included it in the movie, and maybe the movie could have done without the epilogue.
Yeah.
Maybe. It depends on what kind of tone they're going for.
But I like this kind of film. There's not a lot of action in this film. I mean, there's a couple little, but they're short. Like, they're real short action scenes. And so if you're ready for a good story that's really slow, I think this is a great choice. I'm going to give this a 7.
Okay. I agree 100%. I want to give it more, but because of that last fourth of the film where characters are at, stick around for spoilers, we could tell you about it. So it's hard for me to recommend outside of Western fans or people that are prepping themselves for Red Dead Redemption 2. And if you want to watch some old classics, that's fine. But this one is, it's definitely more character-focused, character study between these two brothers. You really do buy the relationship, but I think some things happen by the end that you're like, was that really necessary? It kind of made kind of a whole plot line seem a little, pointless. But not really, because... characters grow from it. Anyways, we'll talk to you in spoilers. Thank you guys so much for watching.
What'd you give it?
Oh, shit. I gave it a 7 out of 10 in my head.
Good choice.
I agreed with them already. So 7 out of 10. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stick around for spoilers. If not, we'll see you on the next Red Dead Redemption 2. All right, welcome, guys. So the biggest problem I had with the film, like everybody was acting realistically. I buy that these two guys are really good at gunfights, and because they've been doing it their whole lives, they talk about how their father's blood is in him, and he was like a fucking shitty ass person, and you can tell that they bonded from that experience growing up, and so I bought all that. They go and they they're supposed to hunt down the scientist with the formula and torture him to get the formula. Turns out the scout, who, is supposed to tattle on him, meets him and befriends him and realizes he's very, he's a nice guy, well-spoken, and they have some things in common. And they decide to create a convent, or not a convent, but a community in Dallas with the gold that they're going to, harvest together. Yeah. Eventually, these plot lines, come together, and the sisters' brothers end up joining them. we don't work for Commodore anymore, because the two guys get the jump on the sister brothers. But we don't work for them anymore. So they go and they use the solution in the water to, show the gold. But then they act like fucking idiots, even though they know, because they've used it multiple times, that this solution is very toxic and hazardous to your health. And we got people just for no apparent reason grabbing big fucking, Joaquin Phoenix. Of course, the younger brother's supposed to be like a greedy, stupid guy, but
here's a quick fix they could have done. They could have showed him like kind of off-screen drinking. It's like, he's a drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll buy it.
He's sober.
He
is sober in the scene.
I did not think about that,
It's like,
Joe.
no, he wouldn't have done this sober. He would have,
Right.
maybe they were drinking too much. He's like, oh, it's disappearing. We'll work on it later. It's like, no, let's do it.
Yeah, he dumps the whole thing in the water.
Well, he trips and he pours it all over his arm.
Yeah. And it falls in the water, but he was going to dump it in the water anyway. And this triggers, the scout and the scientist to scream, no! But for some reason, they start running and splashing into the water towards him. They're not going to stop him. He's too far away. And one guy even, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, fucking dies in the water.
Well, he tripped. He, trips.
Whatever. But you see all these, little conveniences, and you're like, what is happening? No, don't you, what the fuck are y'all doing? A bunch of dumbasses. And yeah, that could happen, but I don't know. It just felt a little bit forced. So all four of these motherfuckers are submerged. Well, two of them were submerged. Obviously the scientist and the scout are submerged, and they're fucked, and they're near death, and
their skin's melting.
Their skin's melting off. So Jake kills himself, and the other guy, they form this bond and partnership, and he just wants to talk about his partner. And I'm sorry I died before you. He didn't even know who he was talking to. He was talking to John C. Reilly's character, not Jake Gyllenhaal's character. And then he passes away. And it's like, damn, man, I don't know. They kind of felt for nothing. But it's not for nothing, because of their goodness and their ideals and their slow down, talk about things and confront things and say things out loud. I think the sisters brothers grew. And, John C. Reilly shares this story about their father and how his younger brother, how he protects his younger brother. The younger brother ended up killing the father and gets into a lot of trouble. And then even the younger brother, who is this, rash, wants to fight and gunfight, starts to work hard with them and starts to turn a new leaf. So the point of them meeting with the other group is they change into better people, and they manage to find a way out of their shitty, sad assassin existence that will end in death. And thankfully, it doesn't end in death. After this experience, they bury those. I don't even think they buried them.
I don't think so either.
Oh shit. Well, they took the gold and they go off, and they go to their mama's house, and they just live with their mom. And then the story ends with them happy living with their mom. Oh well, obviously.
The guy loses an arm. Well, and then it doesn't end there, because their boss that sent them out knows that they're not coming out. And so other assassins are coming to kill them.
All the time.
And then you think that there's going to be this final scene.
Yeah.
And then this is the problem I had with the convenience. It was convenient for Joaquin Phoenix's character to all of a sudden become an idiot and then pour caustic solution over himself. And then kill the other two guys.
Right.
And then it's absolutely convenient the day before that they're supposed to kill the big bad guy, they had a heart attack and died.
Oh, that was the other thing. So yeah, but they do these great, amazing scenes, his brother's getting his arm sawed off because it's useless, and John has to go out there alone and take on some things. So they're great little scenes like that throughout the movie. That's worth going through some of the slower parts to get to these parts, because those leave impressions on you. And yeah, once they go to the Commodore, because Joaquin Phoenix wants to take over his role, or that was maybe the intention. He's already dead, and he's in a funeral, which leads to a very funny scene of they're the only ones that show up to the funeral, and they're like, "Can we close the casket now, sir?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, I guess." Then he runs over, and he's like, punching in his face, just to make sure. I'm just making sure.
You have to make sure.
I'm just making sure. But they were all prepared to go in there in a gun battle. Honestly, I thought this film was gonna end in the classic tragedy. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, they're assassins, they've killed innocents, they've killed bad guys, and this is just a life. Because so many westerns end in that way. And Sundance, Sundance and something Kid, the Sundance Kid. I forget. It's an
Butch
older
Cassidy?
movie. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It ends, you know, and I was like, oh, they're going for something like this, and it actually has a happy ending.
Yeah, I was surprised about the happy ending because the entire movie, they were John C. Reilly was trying to get out. He's like, don't you think about just getting out and living in peace? He's like, no, this is my life. And
Joaquin,
then Jake Gyllenhaal's character is like, well, you don't have much long to live.
You're gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of foreshadowing. You're like, oh, these guys are gonna die.
Yeah.
But no, it was a happy ending. So, which I didn't mind because I've been through so many of the rough endings that I was like, all right, you know what? Sisters, brothers, they get to end their life happy. And it's just that kind of unevenness that is throughout the film. And I don't know if it's a result of the director trying to experiment and do some things that maybe aren't normal in the Western genre. But overall, it's a good watch. So I'd still recommend it.
What problems did you... Like, I had a couple problems with Well, so when I was talking about, like, the bad things happen to them, he gets bit by a brown recluse in his mouth.
Okay.
The very next day, a bear attacks them in a thunderstorm and, like...
attacks their horse.
Injures the horse.
Which leads his horse to die
and
later on.
It's horrible.
At
and,
the most inopportune time.
Cheap. Like, that whole bear attack had no... Like, shouldn't have been in there. Like, it was just... Right. It was an unnecessary thing where it's like... Hardship after hardship after hardship after hardship. It's like, why?
And then you know, they go to a little podunk town that's been controlled by Mayfield or something like that.
Yeah.
And is it Mayfield?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like some saloon owner that kind of runs their own little town, sort of like a Commodore on its own, and they want to kill John C. Reilly and they want to kill the sisters brothers too. And one of them is drunk as hell. 5 of them show up. They somehow get out of that. But okay, I buy that. I like the fact that they're so good at gun battles. But it's just so many things happen to them. And then for it all to culminate in everybody fucking up with the solution and then one brother having to have his arm cut off. Their 2 friends that they met because essentially they form a little bit of a friendship. And they're dead. But at least they took away something from the experience that made them better people. And I think that's why it saved the film. And I'm not saying like, oh, fuck this, you know, this is too far. You know, they got saved in the end. So great performances, good Western for those that are ready for it, okay? This is not a mainstream movie. This is one that for aficionados and people that appreciate different takes.
A good story. If you just want a good story and you don't have much to do that day, just like sit back, have a whiskey, and
a good story that you don't mind takes a little while to unfold.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.
Anything else?
No.
I really didn't like Jake Gyllenhaal's accent, but that was
yeah.
a minor that doesn't matter.
Yeah.